Alright, what is going on, guys? It is your boy TKD123 here, back in here on PlayStation Source. And of course, last week we did get the news, or maybe it was the week before, I forgot which one, but recently we got the news that PlayStation is officially working on the next generation VR unit. We're going to call it pSVR 2 for this video, but it may not be called that, as well. But we did get some new controller patents that I did want to bring to you guys and really ask you guys how you guys feeling about it. But before we get to that, check out my boy Miles. Look at him right there. I hope the camera picks him up. Look at him. What a king. What a king. But okay, going back to the whole thing, okay, buying a VR headset and proper controllers for it tend to be pretty expensive, especially with pSVR. While some more than others, the Iron Man VR bundle with the Move wand and the camera will run you $350, but it's currently not in stock at the moment anyway. Actually, looking more into it as well, you might find some pSVRs right now that you are paying a minimum of $250 for just the headset, and you have to still buy the camera and the controllers separately as well. Long story short, it's pretty pricey, okay? But Sony seems to be kind of having this patent out that is trying to alleviate and address the concerns of having to buy the headset and then multiple controllers, and those controllers have a ton of tech in it, which makes the price a little bit pricier. Let's go over what they got here. They want us to use plantains as controllers. And listen, man, look, as a Dominican, look, man, Platinum Power, I believe in Platinum Power to my heart, so I'm not really necessarily opposed to this whole thing, but let's go over their plan here for us to use bananas as controllers. Now, obviously, they are using a banana here as an example. They are going to be saying here in the patent, and we'll talk about here in the video, that you can use a multitude of different other objects. They say here more specifically that the patent goes on to describe that as long as an object is not luminous, it could be used as a controller like a mug, pen, shoe, etc. So it looks like you're gonna be able to use just any object. I assume, I would probably use I don't know what I would use. Could you use a controller? Like, could the DualSense be an object that you use? No? Okay, let's just keep it going here and read the rest of this whole thing. It says how it would work is that the camera gets images of the item from a user from their hands, and based on contours, pixels, and colors, it can track that said item. It says also that the movement can control the aspect of a game from the in-game camera, or even pause the game if it's set down on a table. So that's pretty cool right there as well. So it's really making this impression that this object is acting like a real pSVR controller, which I think is pretty cool, honestly, in my opinion. They even discussed the project of having two objects be controllers at the same time. So aka you could do dual wield, like you could be Kratos in God of War Ragnarok, swinging both blades and stuff like that, being a savage. You could possibly do that here with bananas on the pSVR 2 technology. They also go on to mention that when motion controls aren't feasible in a game, they can even have it where virtual buttons are mapped to the object, allowing you to have an X, a square, a triangle, a circle, etc. Mounted onto the actual item, or not really mounted, like projected onto the item that you're making a controller at that given moment. So this is done, they say, by using a camera that's mounted onto the pSVR 2 headset that will allow it to project buttons onto an item, which I think is pretty cool. I think that's honestly pretty neat. But like, here's where I'm at, guys, honestly, right? Like, all that sounds great, all that sounds dandy. I doubt it's gonna work as described here, right? Like, I'm sure there's going to be problems with it. I'm sure there's going to be issues where if you're not in a well-lit area, it's going to mess up the tracking and everything. Like, maybe you have a black item that you are using as a controller and it's not that bright in the room, it won't pick it up, things like that. So I assume that it's not going to work as well as intended here in this patent, the way they described it. But hey, who knows, man? Like, maybe it's cool, maybe it's neat, we will have to see. But they did detail another controller that I think is definitely more close to the real controller. So they have here this more traditional looking pSVR 2 next generation controller that has a bunch of different aspects that are definitely more believable in terms of what would a new controller look like, as opposed to using the PlayStation Move controllers from like 15 years ago or whenever they came out, right? So this controller does have some pretty big changes here. One being that the big orb on top of the Move wands is no longer there. It's replaced with an LED panel. So I'm kind of hoping that it's not just like an LED panel, like just with a light. I think it would be cool if we had the LED screen from the back button attachment that could help you like with different things around the controller. Like maybe it could show you like player 1, player 2, player 3, player 4 if you're playing like a local multiplayer pSVR game or something like that. I think it could be a cool way to do it, right? But they do have an LED panel to kind of replace that move wand orb. They also go on to detail some of the things that we knew were going to be in this new controller involving the PS5, that being of course it has a trigger, which is an adaptive PS5 trigger, as we know very much so. Like they said here, they did say on the blog announcing this PSVR 2 that there will be different elements and aspects of the DualSense controller on the next generation PSVR controller as well. So that's all fine and dandy there. They also detail that it will have haptic feedback in there, and they also say that this controller can even track fingers as well by having a dedicated thumb tracker and then 3 finger trackers as well on the controller to kind of fill out that whole thing. So I think it's pretty cool that you're going to be able to finger track and everything feasibly if this is real, if this ends up being a real product in the future. It definitely reminds me of Valve Index, where they have finger tracking on their controllers as well with the Valve Index. So it could be pretty cool, and it could really bolster PSVR. But ultimately here, guys, where I stand is that yes, while I think it may be cool to use any object in the real world as a PSVR controller, I think the one that is really going to be made is that real controller that we talked about just now, where it has the LED panel, it has the PS5 adaptive triggers, it has the haptic feedback, finger tracking, all that. Like, if they really make that a controller, I'm curious about the price. I'm not gonna lie, I'm curious about the price of this thing, but I do think that this is going to be the one that primarily gets made and what developers primarily focus on and what they want you to use on their PSVR games. But that's just my thought, guys. That's just my opinion. What do you guys think in the comments below? Do you want to see this controller get made? Do you like it? Do you hate it? Do you have any things that you wish they have in this patent that you want in the full PSVR 2 controller? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. And make sure also, while you are down there, you can check out our description where you can find links to our Discord, our Twitter, and our Anchor link. That way you can listen to our long form content in podcast format. Those of course being the Road 2 series and Safe Slot podcast every single Sunday. Like the video if you enjoyed it, as well as hit subscribe to PlayStation Stories to keep up with the latest and greatest in PlayStation. Thank you all for watching, and as always, greatness awaits.